The next step of binding your pages together is actually sewing the pages together. You can see on the inside of each one of my signatures, there's stitches that join it to the mulberry paper and make everything strong and joined together. So the first thing we need to do is mark where our stitches are going to go. Then we're going to use the awl to make the holes. You can see here I've used paper clips loosely to hold the signatures together since they are two different separate pieces of paper. And you can just take the paper clips. You don't have to put them on fully because you don't want to leave marks on your paper. And then I have these guides made for you. You're going to use a pencil, mark where those guides are, and then take the awl and press it into each one of the marks, making sure there's a cutting mat underneath. All right, before you start using the awl, make sure your pages are lined up together. Hold the book pages upright and then just push the awl through the paper all the way down into the cutting mat. Be careful because the awl is sharp. Then before you start sewing, you want to take the awl and make your hole a little bit wider. Be careful not to push it too far because the awl is tapered and you'll see it gets wider the further you go up. So you just want to make it a little bit wider by just gently wiggling the point of the awl through your hole so it's easier to get your needle through. The next step is, now that we have all of our holes made, we are going to start sewing. And you can see we have this thicker wax string to sew our pages together. We have white and black, depending if you want your string visible or to match your paper. I'm going to use black so it's easier for you to see. And we want to use a length of thread that will, so we don't have to stop and start. This is enough thread to sew the entire book, so you got to be careful it doesn't tangle. So the first step is going to be threading through the needle. All you need to do is pull about 3 or 4 inches, and we're going to sew with a single thread. So you're going to leave the thread like this. Then on the other end, we want to put a nice knot on there. So we're going to wrap around twice and make just a simple pretzel knot. And we're going to pull that tight. Now how we're going to sew this, and you can see the sewing on the binding here, is this illustration shows how we're going to sew. You're going to start behind the binding, go up through the first hole, then weave in and out. Then when you get to the end of the page, you're going to loop around and go back, doing a figure 8 across the whole binding. Then you'll go up and around to the next signature. Okay. Now that you've stitched all of your signatures together, and you could see sometimes I would take my needle from the inside so I could find my hole easier, or you could use the awl to do that. I'm gonna wrap around and I'm going to grab this stitch here and I'm gonna tie a knot around that stitch to finish everything up. So I'm gonna go around, I'm gonna wrap a loop around that last stitch, tie a knot, make sure everything's pulled tight. And then you'll cut your string here. I also like to put a little bit of glue on the knots to make sure they don't come undone. And then you will be finished, and the next step will be gluing this into the binding of the book.